The Mazda MX-5 NC, the boat, the best of all time, the worstly regarded MX-5 when it was introduced. So I bought one of these because they're a great project car now. The Mark 1s and Mark 2s are just rust. If you're good at rust, then great. These are the next best thing. They're light, they're only 1100 kilos, they've got 160 odd horsepower, lovely 2-litre engine that feels a bit strangled, but we'll deal with that. And in my opinion, actually the best looking one. Starting with the most obvious, the NC2 front end, this brilliant smiley face. I love it. I think it's so much nicer than the NC1, which had like the oval mouth and the slightly round lights. I think Mazda did the perfect thing, fitting these slightly swoopier lights, nice fogs, and this really smiley grin. Even though this is a non-sport model, it is still quite low, and the bit that looks the worst though of it in a non-sport, this gap, it's massive. I don't know why they did it like that. You can, the sporter models are standard lower. This will be being rectified on this. Coilovers, not decided on. Wish I could afford some Super Miatas. Can't. Please let me know in the comments which ones you think I should get. Kendo has a lovely gold tint to that black. The facelift, in my opinion, has a much nicer rear end. That blended in ducktail, them lights are a lot cleaner. The exhaust set slightly too far back though. Little Japanese sports cars like this are not known for their classy interiors, but I'm happy to say the one on this is lovely. Cream leathers, really nice sporty steering wheel. I've got a volume control and my cruise control on there, which is brilliant. I love the dials. The dials, I'll show you closer in. The dials are not protected guards. They have no glass around them. So all these bezels actually stick out towards you, which really nicely segregates each piece. Keeping with the practicality, you've got these really nice big cup holders in the doors as well. This arm pocket here is leather trimmed and really soft. This is leather trimmed. All gives to actually a nice modern feel to this car without taking away the old retro element to it. It doesn't feel overly complicated. You've got a read over from the Mark 1 with this tombstone design centre console. This one does have the Bose system, which is okay. They kind of slate it a little bit. I don't think there's any need. Your dials are all pretty simple touch, a bit like the RX-8 ones. I don't like this. It might seem petty, but it looks a bit naff, that does. And these aren't the best. I'd rather a button for on and off. I don't know why you need 5 stages of heating. So as soon as you get in this car and start it, pretty much silent. There's no noise, no rumble from the engine, no like old school twin cami noise either when you're driving it. But as soon as you get in, the steering wheel's lovely, the gear selection, you've only got, I don't know, 1.5 inch travel each way. Everything else really nice and plush. Driving position, pretty perfect. It feels maybe a tad high. I'm only 5'8", which is not short, and that's average. I feel a little bit high. I mean, I can move the steering wheel up and down, but I quite like it a little lower. This is as low on this seat as it will go, but otherwise, this is quite nice and close. The pedals feel perfect. The brakes don't feel overly heavy. There's a slight feeling in the throttle where you can tell I've come from a Mark 2. The Mark 2, you touch the throttle and it revs. This doesn't do that. So if you want that really like sprightly feel, from standard, this doesn't give you that. But let's go out for a drive and let's see how it feels. Where this car feels perfectly at home. I mean, 30 miles an hour through little villages, roof down. I am forgoing a little driving pleasure there with the windows up. Normally they'd be down, but a bit noisy. It's kind of perfect. The heated seats, perfect. The heating on the top open mode, really good, really helpful. And it's really comfy. And the steering's not as fast as, for example, my wife's Mini Countryman. It's not that fast, where that feels like a front-wheel drive car. This obviously isn't. But once you get going, once the road picks up a little bit, it suddenly starts to feel that suppleness allows you to make a bit more comfortable progress. I don't think anyone's ever said it's a GT car before, but coming from a Mark 1 and a Mark 2, it certainly feels that way. I hate touching these. They're that bad. I don't like touching them. I might get a sun strip, just completely ditch these. They're terrible. They feel awful. Why did you make them so cheap? So I'm on this very quiet bit of 60 mile an hour road. 20 miles an hour, foot down in second, you get more torque than the old ones. You're instantly up to 5,000 revs, but 5 to 7, 7.5, 7.4 doesn't give you loads more than like 4 to 6. So again, it doesn't doesn't make it really eager to rev. Not saying that it feels like it's tailing off in power, but it doesn't give you any more. Apparently a manifold really sorts that out. Let's roll on a bit of that torque instead. Oh, it's 4th gear. I see, that's alright. And I kind of complained, I feel, unjustly, that the car, it don't feel slow, it really don't. It just doesn't give me any more for revving it out. But the upside to that is the bottom bit of the revs, and you really haven't got to thrash it. And again, that makes me lean more towards the fact that it's like a bit of a GT car, even though it's not advertised as such. Feels it from what I've come from. But then when you get down to the much tighter, narrower roads, the good thing about having all them revs, and it is a lot of revs for a modern car, is you can kind of stay in it. It don't redline until 7.6, in which you're already doing over 60. Yeah, these just give you a lot of confidence in the corners. Once the weight's settled, it just feels like it's going to roll off to one side. Like I say, this ain't the sports model anyway. And in 3rd gear, you really can throw it around. That's quite joyous. Don't feel as scary as the Mark II, like it's going to throw you off at any point. Well, that's nice. You can get the back to rotate a little bit round on the brakes and turn it into a corner. On the Mark 1 and the Mark 2, always that did is push the front wide. What standard that is. But this, it tends to rotate really nicely there. I look forward to taking that on track with that kind of handling. Anyone, anywhere who drives a standard Japanese car has these little things. Slightly weird engine noise, you can tell it's muted, not muted like a German car where you know it's supposed to be muted, but just muted enough where you're like, I think it could make a good noise, but doesn't. Handling, good, slightly soft. I think all Japanese cars, or everything that I've had certainly, just requires a couple of mods to make them brilliant. And the main reason I picked this is because I can use it every day, reliable, never really have to worry about it. I can do a track day on the way home from work, don't have to put so much planning and so much fear into it like I did with the Subaru. Just enjoy, and this is really enjoyable to drive. A really nice convertible's just gone past the other way. It doesn't make me jealous or anything, but it was a convertible 350Z. They're probably a similar price to an NC2 or an NC3. They sound nicer. This doesn't have a really nice soundtrack with the roof open, which is a shame. But again, it's a standard car, and the upside to that is it's really nice and quiet. I mean, how do I conclude this? It's a lovely car, and you know, for something that you can get an absolute mint low miler for less than 10 grand, I love these. You can get a nice one for 5, and I think for 5 grand, it's a really good car, and for every day, it's nice enough that it feels special. It's more modern enough that you can live with it. The hardtop makes a huge difference in the cold and the rain. I love that compared to having the soft top, even though you feel like you've not got a true convertible, I think, sometimes. And then I can take it on a track day as well and absolutely thrash life out of it. There's not loads of cars, you know, that you can kind of just thrash and not really have to worry too much about. And other than your Hondas, but then you haven't got your rear wheel drive. And this feels playful every day. And when the islands are a little slippy and it accidentally steps out on you, really easy and nice to control in this. I absolutely recommend one. And for those people that think it's a little bit soft, again, remember, if you've ever driven a Mark 1 that's soft, they're like a boat as well. They really do feel like they're all over the place. I'm looking for excuses just to drive this car, and I think if that's how a car makes you feel, then it's perfect.